boy Pop Pop. So it's Sunday. I'm not doing a live stream because of two things. The live streams don't um, get out to many people. And the second thing is because of these trolls. If I end up having to erase a live stream, then good information gets lost for everybody. So I'll probably just go back to doing, a post every so often, and we can keep in touch with each other back and forth through the comments. It's sad that with all of the wonderful technology in the world, that you have most people that are still decent, but a couple of spoilers are all like giggity giggity because they can exert themselves over other people. That's the spirit of witchcraft. And like the guy yesterday, Todd V, who decided very cleverly to overload the message board by typing in gibberish and hitting enter as fast as he could. See, that's something that didn't come by his thinking. That's something that the devil put into his heart to do. And I'm not afraid of the guy. I'm not afraid of Todd V, cursing me and saying that he hopes the devil is after me till the end. The devil's after any child of God in this day and age for a couple reasons. For one thing, God is not the God of the world right now. Satan is the God of this world. And he can reward people with cars and riches and money at the cost of their mortal soul. Just for a few moments of glory and notoriety and all of that, these people sell their eternal soul. How foolish is that? I mean, I'm the better part of a century old, and I remember, my youth like it was yesterday. Eternity will come very quickly. And I believe that Jesus is right at the door and that the rapture is going to happen very soon. And the reason that I believe that is look how this world is now. It's like the world is being terraformed for these demons with the incredible heat and the misery and the thing that they want us to eat bugs and grubs now. And they're shutting down the farms. They're shutting down electrical plants. They don't want people to use air conditioning. All of that stuff. So if you're still someplace that's got normal amounts of electricity and food and everything, you should thank God. Because our world went from 1/4 of the population starving to 1/3 of the world starving. That's a big leap. And things are going to get worse from here on out. But for the child of God, we're looking up. For those of you that don't have a relationship with the one true and living God, you're going to face hell on earth. And people say, well, they don't believe in hell. If you were from my generation and you saw how polite and wonderful America was, decades ago, where nobody would dream of giving somebody the finger or of cursing at them or saying something vulgar like the F word, or parading in the street saying that you're proud because you're using your butt for a vagina and your mouth for a urinal, and you're proud of that. You want everybody, no, just the opposite. People used to be so ashamed when they were called out. You had people who wouldn't dare say that they were atheists out in the open. They wouldn't dare say that they were atheist communists and all this other stuff out in the open. But now people are parading it. They're anti-free speech. They're anti-nationalism, where they're not for their own country. They figure that and this is part of 44's doing in a big way, this lurch that this country has taken towards destruction, of saying, well, they want to just hand this country over so that there won't be any violence or bloodshed or anything. Just the opposite has to happen, because you're handing the country over to people who weren't elected. They can't be gotten rid of as far as the structure goes now. So you got to live with what you got now, what you hoped for, and what you finagled your way into getting. We had a good president who was strong, and people got rid of him because he was mean, and he said mean tweets. So they got rid of him. And now we got somebody who can't even find his way back into the Rose Garden. It's a mess. And he's just a puppet. He's a puppet. I believe personally that Barrio is good to his word. Barrio said that if he could find a puppet and run things from a distance, that he would. And I think that he found that in Uncle Joe, because he hates his country. He hates his country. And the whole thing about him being a citizen is a lie, because when they highlighted his birth certificate, and they said, see, he's got a birth certificate from Hawaii. Well, the birth certificate, 1961, says African American. African American wasn't a term back then. Back then they had Negro, Caucasian, they had Mongoloid, and they had the B word. I remember that because I had a brother-in-law who was illegitimate. And in a great big 6 or 8 inch stamp across his birth certificate, it said the B word, BAST, blah, 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 D, in great big letters. And every place he went where he had to show his birth certificate, he had to go through that humiliation. But in any case, the lady who finagled Barrio's birth certificate went down in a plane that ran out of fuel over the water, and wouldn't you know it, everybody else in the plane survived except this lady. What a coinky-dink. So these people do these dirty deeds, and they wind up getting bumped off because they have the truth. And these elites, they worry about that. So they have them bumped off, like all of Hillary's friends that committed suicide. And wouldn't you know it, that the munitions that they found are all the same caliber. And the one guy even capped himself in the back of the head. Now, how do you do that? Cap yourself in the back of the head. And it happens to be the same munition with the same cuts and scratches on the round. 29 different people. Huh. Boy, the odds of that are something, aren't they? And see, people in our society, we're like, well, we'll get what we want, a single body politic in this country. That way everybody will have to be on the same page, and we'll get what we want, and then we'll go back to the rule of law. Nothing could be further from the truth. Once you compromise truth, it's gone forever. We've lost the right of free speech. They're working on the Second Amendment. A lot of these things, appear to have been staged. Like the one attack on the school where the police were told to stand down and the parents themselves wanted to go in and rescue their children. You have these actors and these singers and all, and they get to the magic age of 23 or 33, and their covenant of blood is up, and then they wind up gone, or a relative, a close relative, or a girlfriend gets sacrificed. Those are the cowards that make a covenant of blood and are too scared to put themselves on the altar. They'll put a relative or a girlfriend or someone else as the sacrifice and be good with it. And then when their time comes, these politicians, when their time is up, they always give them a big Christian rite of burial lying in state. And believe me, they're not in heaven with the Lord Jesus Christ. These people who signed on to have babies aborted all the way up to the day of birth, which is a horrible thing. You give birth to the baby, and then you decide whether you're going to keep it or not. You check the baby out to make sure it's got the right eye color and all that other stuff. And if you don't like it, you just stick a pair of scissors into the back of the baby's head and scramble its brain. That's called pithing. You pith it. And then you sell the body parts off so that you can feel better about yourself, having given an organ or something to somebody. I watch these videos where these people go after dogs and puppies, and they'll crawl into sewers, and they'll crawl into bushes. They'll get bitten by the dog trying to rescue it, And the one woman had an abortion shirt on where she's crawling through these bushes trying to get this dog. She reaches, she gets bitten, and she's calling the dog sweetie and all, and the dog's trying to bite her hand off. And in the meanwhile, she's got an abortion shirt on, because after all, dogs are innocent, but people aren't. We're a parasite now. And see, the fact of the matter is if you had abortion services for dogs and cats, the people would be out in the streets rioting and protesting that they were aborting dogs and cats. But by the same token, they'll wipe out a human just like that, like turning off a light switch, And these people, they think that they're so wonderful and they're so kind. But the funny thing is, the ironic thing is when they talk to each other, they talk to each other in commands. I've noticed on the show where the guy who's supposed to be the leader, he always is the one that tells the girl to go into the bushes and get the dog, and then when she's got to give it to me, come on, always it's like he doesn't have any love for the girl, but he's got love for the dog. And the one guy takes the dog and the Asher House, I think it is. He'll take that dog's muzzle and put it up to his mouth and kiss on that dog's mouth and rub his mouth against that dog and see and lie down with that dog. In my day and age, you had a dog, you cared for it, and you had a dog house outside, and you gave the dog food and water, a nice place to sleep, and if the weather was really bad, you brought the dog into the inside porch, but you didn't have the dog up on your sofa rubbing its anal gland all over your sofa and your furniture and exposing everybody in your house to hookworms and everything, where the dog slides its butt along the carpet to use your carpet as toilet paper. And then your kids walk on that carpet barefoot, and the hookworms go up underneath the soft part of the toes and infect your family. And then you have all of a sudden grinding of teeth, itchy orifices, itchy mouth, itchy belly button, itchy behind, itching of your ears, your nose, your orifices, grinding of teeth, headaches, night sweats, all of this stuff having to do with parasite infection. And back in my day, they used to give a teaspoon of molasses with a little bit of turpentine in the molasses each spring to deworm the children. And if you didn't go simple or blind or autistic, then at least you didn't have parasites. But that was back then. My grandmother used to soak the mattress box springs in kerosene every spring and put them out to dry to keep the bed bugs away and stuff like that they did way back when. And it's a miracle that we all survived that. But be that as it may, these people see themselves as virtuous. They serve a God of their understanding, a God of their creation, with attributes that they have, and excluding attributes that they don't like. So that's witchcraft. That's witchcraft. And see, this person, well, actually, these two people, Helen Smith, who sent me a message with skull and crossbones, that business, and Todd V, who said that he hopes the devil will follow me to the end. Well, the devil does harass the children of God. He does harass the children of God, but he's not on equal standing with God. God is the creator. He created Lucifer, which was the angel that stood in the presence of God as a lampshade. It says even now that it intimates rather, even now, that in heaven, the heavenly beings don't look directly upon God, because it says the angels, in humility, they cover their eyes with their wings, and in humbleness, they cover their feet with another set of wings. With the third set of wings, they fly around saying, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord God Almighty," which he is. God of heaven and earth. And see, the Muslims even believe they've taken that and associated with Allah, the moon god, who, by the way, is not the same God as the God of the Christians and the Jew, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The Jews and the Christians serve the same God. Muslims do not serve Allah. When they say Allah, O Akbar, they're saying our God is greater. Allahu Akbar, our God is greater than the one true and living God. And the word said pride comes before the fall. When Lucifer became self-aware in a matter of speaking and became prideful, he desired to exalt himself above God and the throne of God. He rallied a third of the angels against God, and he got kicked out of heaven. Now, at that point, he underwent a change of stature with God. He became Lucifer, the Lord of the Flies, the father of lies, the unholy one, the unrighteous one. There's like 20 different names for his attributes now. Satan the destroyer, Satan the accuser. And if you actually go and you put it in the old language, it said, and I saw Satan, Barak, fall from heaven like lightning from the sky. And the two words are Barak and Bama. And the O in the middle is a consonant that ties the two, a syllable rather, that ties the two together. Like people saying, Allahu Akbar, Allah Akbar. And there's that O or U in the middle, that syllable that ties the two together. It's the same with Barack Obama. Satan was kicked out like Barack Obama, like lightning from out of the sky. I still believe that I personally believe that in the last moments of this history, that Barry O is going to play a great big role because, for one thing, he claimed he was a Christian, and he has the ring that said there's no God other than Allah. He's got that ring on his finger. You know, there's so many lies about him. There's so many innuendos and all of this other stuff. Like when he had the press dinner and he was telling people the truth. These elites tell the truth through joking and metaphor. He said you all didn't realize that you had voted a pot-smoking socialist into the House, into the WH. And people sat there like fools and laughed. He talked about a red wedding for his enemies. A red wedding is where you invite your enemies to a wedding feast, and then you lock the doors and you wipe them out. That's what he was saying about the Republicans. And they did have Republicans who were playing baseball in a park and got SHOT at. I hate this platform because there's certain words you can't say. There were Republicans on a train and a garbage truck got pushed out in front of the train to try and wipe those people out. There have been other politicians that went down on airplanes, like the guy that went down on Korea flight 007 years ago, and the other one that went down on this Malaysian 370 or whatever had a politician on it. You know, these people are not beyond wiping out their enemies, fam. Don't believe, don't kid yourself for a minute. Barry O said people will be walking along and a drone will wipe them out. And again, the audience laughed because he's cool and he's hip the way he says it. He's not overt like Trump is. All of these elitists, they use metaphors and things like that. Like when Barry O gets ticked off, he'll scratch the side of his face with his middle finger. You know, he's very subtle, like the devil is subtle, and he's very clever. Like Joan Rivers when she outed Michael Obama and the fact that he's trans, and that Barry O is married to another guy in a wig with 2 rent-a-kids. When he has his daughters next to them, you'll notice the parents of those 2 girls are always in the background when they go on trips and stuff. The actual blood parents of those 2 girls are in the background. You know, I'm not judging, I'm just saying that it was all manufactured. It was all manufactured for public consumption. And then the other option they gave us was John McCain, who they said was a rebel. He wasn't a rebel, he was a rhino. And then they put Sarah Palin with John McCain, a very outspoken lady, you know, who got a lot of things wrong. And I actually believe at some point that if we had elected John McCain and he passed and then Sarah Palin became president, that she would have actually been groomed into being a fairly decent president. And prophecy says the next president is going to be a woman. So I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. But all of this stuff is reaching synchronicity. It's like it says a prophecy, which is the veracity of the Bible, which means the accuracy of the Bible, is provable by fulfilled prophecy. The Bible said centuries ago that people should cover their mouth if they have a disease. They should social distance, walk on the other side of the street if they're sick. It had a lot of things that we take for granted now before they even knew about germs and viruses and bacteria and all that other stuff. I have to shift my position for a while because when you're bedridden, the body will tell you that you need to get your circulation going. You know, it's a hard thing to be bedbound and wheelchair bound. I can tell you, it's not relaxing or joyful at all. A Wheelchair Dan actually makes videos where he cries from the pain of being in the wheelchair, which I can tell you is very painful. After a while, your hips just get set on fire because there's no circulation and there's no there's no muscles to pump everything, and the bones just kind of sit down on top of everything and crush everything. Really painful. But in any case, this world, as a witness to the evidence of hell, you can see this world, this earth being turned into hell as we've kicked God out. The foolish little man, Jerry Nadler, said that God wasn't relevant on the floor of the U.S. Congress. And the guy walks like a penguin. He can barely even walk. And yet he would mouth such atrocities towards God, such blasphemy, that the God of all creation wasn't welcome, where he created. But I'm gonna read this 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 9. Know this also, in the last days perilous times will come. Men shall be lovers of themselves. That we're the selfie generation. Covetous, wanting other people's stuff. Boasters, those are the people that know a secret. Like this young man who knew a vital secret, and he had to get on chat and tell everybody that he was the one who knew about it first. Proud, blasphemers. Another thing that is the witness of Jesus Christ being Lord is when people slam their hand in the car door or drop something on their foot. They don't say Buddha, damn it, or Muhammad, damn it. They blaspheme the Lord Jesus Christ. Disobedient to parents, sitting in the parents' basement. You have people now that are 30, 40-year-old adults that are sitting in their parents' basement playing video games instead of going out and being productive and making a living for themselves, waiting for someone to call them to dinner. Then they go upstairs and they begrudgingly eat dinner, push away from the table, and leave everything for their parents to clean up as they scramble back down to play that video game. When they eat their food, they don't even give thanks to God or thanks for the people who made the food, who grew the food, just like a dog at the pan, where you see a dog and it can hardly wait. Some dogs and cats will knock the dish out of your hand trying to get the food. Without natural affection, that's men with men and women with women, putting things in places where they weren't designed. Truce breakers. When I bought my first house, I told the woman said, well, the house would be $122 a month for a 4-bedroom house. Was $22,000 or $29,000, something like that, for a very nice 4-bedroom house. Alls I did, it was a verbal agreement. I said, I'll come and give you the deposit. Boom. The house was mine. False accusers like this lady, the porn star, who's had more ding-dongs in her mouth than a cupcake factory. And yet she accused somebody like Donald Trump, who is a germaphobe, of getting with her. I can guarantee you he never even kissed that woman. Never happened. Incontinent. Incontinent is where you don't wait. Well, incontinent, a good vulgar expression nowadays that everyone uses, incontinent, is pissed off. Fierce. Fierce, like you go into a Walmart and people are fierce with each other, grabbing the last roll of toilet paper, telling people, other people to get out of the way, being nasty to the clerks, fighting over a television set, literally pushing people down to get into the store, despisers of those that are good. You know, they're like, oh, those Christians, they think that there's something, you know, and then off to the races they go. Traitors would be a great many of our politicians that have sold us out to other countries, receiving millions of dollars from the dragon country, you know, and slandering good statesmen that would have kept this country in the right direction. They've sold us out because my generation was the we can do anything generation. This generation is, well, wouldn't it just be easier to hand this country over so that nobody gets hurt and there's no bloodshed? Just hand it over to a global third person that we don't vote for, doesn't represent us, doesn't care about us, and it'll be easy that way. You watch. No, it won't be. It'll be the death of the last democracy. That's what these people want. It's going to be a horrible time for the world. You watch. Heady, which is people thinking too much of themselves. When you see people on the show and they're being introduced, they have this big grin. They love to hear about themselves. High-minded. I used to work with this guy, and his name was John Frost. And he always, in a meeting, he always had to state the obvious and hold the meeting up and let everybody know what he knew, the obvious stuff that people already knew that we had covered. And he used to use the term Jack, like John F. Kennedy called himself Jack. And he would answer the phone and he would say, Jack Frost. And the person would be like, what? Yeah, I'm Jack Frost, like the snowman. I had a secretary, Kathy, whom I loved dearly. They fired her. She was very efficient and not very much to look at, an alcoholic. She had a bottle under her desk, but she did the job. So I left her alone, and when Jack would answer the phone, he would say, Jack Frost, like the snowman, and she would mutter under her breath, jackass like a donkey. And so he would hear that, and he had her fired. And then my boss replaced her with this little 19-year-old piece of candy that absolutely bankrupted the company because she didn't know how to collect the money or anything. And she literally was one nail in the coffin that put us out of business. So lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, hedonistic, having a form of godliness, but denying the source or the power. From such people, stay away. For this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts. These are the men that court a woman, and the woman will say, this is my fiance, my baby daddy. Now, the man has got women all up and down the coast. I knew a guy with 32 children that he had gone all up and down the coast making babies and left the women. And they'll promise the woman the star and the moon and the skies. And they'll say, baby, I'm your man. You know, why do we have to use birth control? You know, when I'm your man, I'll always be there for you. And then when he gets the woman pregnant, he'll tell the girl, well, you need to go handle your business. And the mother will say, girl, don't you come back in this house with no baby. And then she goes to a clinic, and the goody-goodies there will scream at her and tell her that on top of everything else, she's going to hell. And in the meantime, she's working a job, and her fiancé, baby daddy, boyfriend is riding around in her car, meeting up with other women while she's at work, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. That's people now who are, at colleges taking gender studies about the 128 different Baskin Robbins flavors of genders and all of this other stuff, when God said he made us man and woman, all of that other stuff. And of course they want to educate the other person. So it says, just like Jannes and Jambres withstood Moses, those were the witches that cast down their rods and turned them into snakes. And then Moses cast his rod down, and his rod ate the other witches' rods. They resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate. They're reprobate, dirty, like that lady who does the spirit cooking. They make a cake in the image of a baby at one of these elitist parties, and then they'll cut the cake, the image of the baby, all apart and eat it, and they use urine and feces and blood and semen in their rituals, and Hillary has done that, and then Hillary had the nerve to walk into a church and rip off a Cleveland quote, saying that I ain't in no ways tired, like she's working for the people that she hates, people that she said that young African American men were super predators. And Joe's the same way. And one of Hillary's mentors was Baird or whatever, Senator Baird, the Klansman. He actually belonged to the KKK, and Hillary said that he was, her mentor. But it said they proceed no further, for their folly shall be manifest to all men. That means dragging us off into WARS like they are now, bankrupting our economy, opening up this country to all kinds of people who aren't vetted, most of which are military-age young men who are being deposited all over the country. And I guarantee you, when the time comes and we have to defend ourselves, that all of these cells will become active. That's why the elites are desperately trying to take away your Second Amendment. Desperately. Because they know that once that they do, they have you. If they control your food, your money, and take away the Second Amendment, they have you. There's nothing that you can do about it. My father was a very brilliant, troubled man. He had been deeply abused as a child, deeply abused. But he said a brilliant thing. He said, you give the common man a weapon, you give the common man a full belly when nobody else has anything to eat, and you give the man authority and somebody to hate, and you have yourself an army. And he was absolutely right, and that's absolutely where we are in the world right now. Pop out.